There is a long, weird history of using comics, using the comic book format to make essentially public service announcements to address social problems. Like, for example, poison, addressed here in comic book form with the help of Dennis the Menace. Or drug use, addressed here with the help of two attractive blonde comic druggies. These and many other attempts to harness the power of comics to address social issues are chronicled at the excellent website Comics with Problems. Our friends at boingboing.net this week alerted us to the fact that Comics with Problems had posted a rare find. It's called Dignity and Respect. It appears to be a U.S. military effort to convey through comics the appropriate implementation of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. They apparently published it in 2001, which means that 8 years into the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy, that policy was working so well the Army had to turn to comic books to try to convey to soldiers what the heck the policy meant. But when you look at the details, the confusion is maybe understandable. Take, for example, the definition of homosexual conduct as described in the comic book. Quote, the Army defines homosexual conduct as an act or a statement or propensity to engage in homosexual acts, the solicitation of another to engage in homosexual acts, and a homosexual marriage or attempted marriage. You tried and failed to get married? You got cold feet, maybe? Okay, so maybe how people get fired isn't always clear, but that's why we turn to the Rachel Maddow Show's comic book voiceover theater for clarification.
Sir, PFC Howard reporting as ordered.
PFC Howard, I've received a report that you were seen engaging in a homosexual act. I consider this information to be credible. I'll be conducting an inquiry and would like to ask you some questions. But first, I must inform you of your rights under Article 31. Do you understand your rights as I explain them?
Yes, sir, I do. But I don't understand what this is about.
As I said, I received a report that you and another male were seen engaging in a homosexual act in the barracks yesterday.
Sir, I would like to talk to a defense counsel before making any further statement.
Fine, PFC Howard, I understand. The ISG will assist you to get an appointment with an attorney. By the way, if you need to talk with someone else, the only other person you can talk to in confidence is the chaplain. Let the ISG know if you want an appointment with him, too. Soon after PFC Howard leaves, ma'am, I wanted to give you an update on PFC Howard's case.
Good. How's it going?
Well, as you said, PFC Howard decided not to make a statement. He's contacting military counsel through the ISG.
Very good, Captain. Thanks for the update.
A few days later, PFC Howard consults with a trial defense attorney.
Sir, can you explain the process and what will happen to me?
Sure. First, let me cover the possible actions your commander could take and potential discharges you could receive if you were involved with homosexual conduct.
Later, that very same comic book, based on my review of the statements by Sergeants Hall and Johnson and discussion with your chain of command, I have decided to recommend the initiation of separation action. You will receive a memorandum notifying you of the convening authority's action. You may talk to your military counsel about your options. Would you like to discuss it at this time?
No, sir. I think I will see my military counsel before I talk about it.
Okay, you are dismissed. A few weeks pass. ISG, I just received word that PFC Howard's discharge has been approved.
It's all so tidy that way. That's what they say it happens when other people out you. What about when you out yourself? Dignity and Respect comic book, what say you?
Ma'am, can I talk to you?
Sure. Is it okay if the ISG stays?
Yes, ma'am.
What's on your mind, Sergeant Williams?
Ma'am, I've been talking to Chaplain Ayers over the past few weeks, and I think that I may be homosexual.
Stop right there. Before you go any further, I want to be sure you understand that under the homosexual conduct policy, saying you're homosexual can be a basis for discharge. You may also want to talk to a legal assistant officer about this matter.
Yes, ma'am. I understand. I have already talked with the legal assistance officer as well.
Do you understand the Army's homosexual conduct policy?
Yes, ma'am, I do, but I've been struggling with this a long time, and decided I had to tell you that I am homosexual.
Do you understand the consequences of what you are telling me?
Yes, ma'am. I needed to let you know, and I do understand the consequences of my actions.
Well then, Sergeant, I will talk with the SJA and battalion commander. I may have some more questions for you after that, so that I can confirm you are serious about this. I also want to make sure that you understand the implications of your statement.
I understand, ma'am. Thank you for your time, ma'am.
No need to thank me, Sergeant Williams.
Later, in the commander's office. So you're certain about this sergeant's sincerity?
ISG, I think so, especially after talking with the platoon sergeant and platoon leader. We don't see any other reason for Sergeant Williams to make this statement at this time.
So what are you going to do, ma'am?
Based on Williams' statement, I may have to initiate discharge procedures, but first, I've got to contact the battalion commander and then get advice from SJA.
Captain Smith calls the battalion commander and then SJA.
Major Storm, sir, this is Captain Smith. I am considering a possible homosexual conduct separation against Sergeant John Williams in my command.
Later that week. How are things going with Sergeant Williams, ma'am?
After talking with the SJA, the battalion commander and I agreed to recommend discharge for Sergeant Williams.
Getting discharged with dignity and respect, according to the Army's comic book on how to do it. We'll be right back.